Okay, so in the previous classes, we had discussed about the four different biomolecules which are very important for a cell. Okay, but now let's assume a cell is a factory. In the factory, these four biomolecules are always um, made by dehydration reactions, or they are broken by hydrolysis reactions. This we will be seeing. Okay, but before that, we had also discussed this experiment initially in the cell. So this is a very thoughtful experiment, very simplistic, but something which is a surprising experiment, where you add the cells proliferate, they exploit the sugar, salts, or water and give rise to more number of cells. So essentially, what is happening over here is cells is a factory, okay, and in the factory they are making the dehydration or hydrolysis reaction, either synthesizing the polymers, the four biomolecules which I shared in the previous classes, or they will be breaking them, and essentially that is done, and it's all catalyzed, the reactions are catalyzed by the enzymes which are proteins, okay, and the blueprint is the DNA. So essentially when you see one cell, what it should have is the blueprint, how the cell has to display itself, uh, how it has to exactly have the same structure and function. So the blueprint will be in the DNA, and the protein molecules or the enzymes which will lipids which will act as a cell membrane, and you have the polysaccharides which will give the currency for all the reactions to take place. But now this is something surprising, isn't it? The cell which comes out is really surprising. So now holistically we'll see what is a cell, how this reactions, the dehydration or the hydrolysis reaction take place inside the cell, and how all the four biomolecules are present inside the cell. Okay, so we'll see this cells in the forthcoming classes. Uh, but over here again, we have to have a classification in the cells. The most primitive form of the cell is called the prokaryotic organism. Prokaryotic. Karya is cell, and which is very old, okay, ancient. So prokaryota and eukaryota, or a eukaryotic organism, that is the higher organisms which you see all around, maybe from fungal colonies to fungi to amoeba protozoans we call, to all other higher organ. We are also prokaryotic. We are also having the prokaryotic, eukaryotic, sorry, cell. So eukaryotes are a higher organism, more organized, and you have the classification as prokaryotes. Prokaryotes are bacteria, archaebacteria we call. That also I'll explain you in the next class. Uh, uh, Sorry, a small disturbance was that. Okay, so we'll have to classify them as prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. Okay, so first we'll see very simplistic form of life which is there, the cells, that is the prokaryotes. And in the prokaryotes, you have a very simplistic kind of cell uh, which is containing uh, okay, before I show you the structure of the cell, you can see this is bacteria. You can see them being motile, that is, they can move around. Okay, this is an experiment because it is all microscopic. We cannot see them by the normal naked eye. So what we do is in microscopically when we view them, they are all moving. Okay, not all the bacteria can move like this, but substantial amount of bacteria can move like this. Okay, so they are being motile. Uh, So we'll see this particular bacteria, how it is made up of. Okay. Uh, this bacteria, for example, when you see it evolved around 3.5 to 3.7 billion years back, and it's having a very simplistic kind of, comparatively a simplistic kind of structure, and as compared to eukaryotic organisms, which I'll later be telling about. Okay, so it's having a very simplistic structure. And what is the simplistic structure? Let's see, according to the four different biomolecules which we studied. Okay, one is the cell is enclosed, okay, by a plasma membrane, this light yellow color, you see, light brown color which is there over here. This is the plasma membrane, and we all have studied this in the previous class while discussing about the lipids. So it contains the phospholipid bimembrane. So it's a very good engineering innovation, and that is what encloses. So when you see the evolution of the uh, life on Earth, so this is something very very important. Okay, phospholipid bimembrane, so that it can enclose, and inside all the activities like breaking up and making up can take place inside. So this is the phospholipid bimembrane. But bacteria, apart from that, externally to the membrane, they have a cell wall. Okay, the cell wall is very important because it protects the cell from rupture and also from predation by the other organism and everything. Here in this slide, I will not given you, but it's very important to know that is the membrane is made up of phospholipid. Okay, by membrane, two layers of phospholipid. I'll be showing again one video. And the cell wall is made up of peptides and glycans, that is some polysaccharides. So peptidoglycan it is called. So the cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan. I'm sorry I didn't mention over here, but you should know that peptidoglycan. Peptido means again some peptides containing amino acids, sequence of amino acids. Okay, and you have the polysaccharides, which is called glycans. So it is peptidoglycan. So the cell wall of the bacteria is essentially made up of the peptidoglycan. The plasma membrane, which also encloses, is made up of phospholipid. Okay, and between these two, you will see a white color space which is there. Okay, this space which is there is called as the periplasmic space. Periplasmic, because there is the plasma membrane, and between the cell wall and plasma membrane there is a space, the space is called periplasmic space. Okay, and this is something very important again. So many of different activities of the cell, the periplasmic space is something very important for them. Okay, uh, for example, for energy derivation, they do something we call just like how the electricity is produced for us, so that as a fuel, similar way the electricity over here also different voltages are produced, gradients are produced, where the hydrogen ions, H plus ions, are sent to the periplasmic space, and they will all gush into the membrane inside, and that will give them the ATP, or the which is the currency of the cell. Okay, so the periplasmic space is something very important, especially this which I told you, the uh, same the voltage will be changed by sending out the protons or the H plus ions outside, because whatever, for example, the polysaccharides or the sugars, when it is uptaken and consumed, it will be broken down into electrons, and these electrons are passed on in this membrane. This is called mesosome. This is nothing but a membrane itself, the phospholipid membrane, but there is some invagination inside. Okay, it will form some kind of loop inside, invagination inside, and this is the area where most of the energy generation will take place. Process technically which is called as oxidative phosphorylation. This occurs on this particular membrane. Okay, and on this membrane, what essentially happens is, when the sugars are broken down, it releases the electron, and the electron passes via these membranes. And when it passes, electron is flowing just like the electric current. When the electrons are flowing, protons which will be inside the cell will be transferred to periplasmic space, and here there will be more concentration of the proton because the movement of electrons there. Later oxygen will be there, which will take up this electron. So only oxygen we require as, and it is termed as the final or the terminal electron acceptor. So electron will be accepted by them, and the protons which will be formed in this periplasmic space will gush inside the cell. When it goes inside the cytoplasm, what will happen is, just like turbines, which you see electric electricity generation will be by the turbine. Same similar way, here it will act like that, and ATP generation will be there, which is the currency of the cell, by which it can actually process. The whole cell will process. So you have invaginations like this of the cell membrane called mesosome. So we have seen cell wall, cell membrane invagination, which is called mesosomes. Okay, and externally there are also other things, like for example you have appendages, like over here in the purple color it is shown as pili, or it is also known as fimbriae, pili or fimbriae. What this will do is they will enable attachment to the surfaces and other bacteria also. So cell to surface interaction is more, also cell to cell interaction also could possibly take place. For example, in the urinary tract, many of them they get infections in the urinary tract by some bacteria. And over there, what happens in the urinary tract is, through the urethra we pass urine, so that is hydrodynamic force which will be there. So bacteria will go in the opposite direction and go to the bladder, urinary bladder. So this is a very difficult process. For example, it is like swimming against the flow of water. Say a river is flowing somewhere, and in the direction which is against the flow, you cannot swim. So it is a very energy intensive process. So something similar is occurring over there also. When the urethra, you pass off the urine and urine is flowing outside, but some bacteria they enter inside against the flow and they go to urinary bladder. How they go is they attach to the surfaces via the spillae. It is like say the you're going in opposite direction to the flow. What happens is we catch hold of different rocks or something which is there underneath, and with the help of rock we can go in the opposite direction, we can climb. Okay, even while climbing a mountain, you attach, you put some what rope or anything and hook, we keep and we do the rock climbing. Similar way, here the pillai is used for this kind of other ends. It will attach and it will move on. Okay, for that it is very much required. And not only that, what the engineers should know is something very interesting, because now uh, uh, in the forthcoming decade we need more and more energy. So for the society to develop properly and to have a good industrial scale uh, energy, we have to come with alternative sources of energy. And one alternative source of energy is bacteria itself. For example, you can produce electricity using the bacteria. It is called microbial fuel cell, and through the microbial fuel cell, electrodes will be dipped inside, and the bacteria will attach to electrodes by the help of the pili, and they will give out the electrons. So the electrons which will flow over here in the membrane can also in some bacteria flow through the pili, and the pili will attach to the electrode, and the electron passes through the microbial fuel cell, thus generating electricity. Okay. Till now, whatever research is there on the microbial fuel cell, less amount of energy is derived, but in future, there could be chances where bacteria will be used, which will generate high amount of energy. Okay, so alternative energy resource bacteria can become. So essentially, what the pillar is acting over there is not only attachment; it is having micro, it can transfer the electron. So micro wires are placed inside the pili in some bacteria. So pili is having not only attachment, it can also transfer the electrons like micro wire it is acting. So pili is something very important. And the next thing outside you have is the flagella. Flagella, just like I showed in the previous video, in the previous slide, they bring about the movement or the motility, it is called technically. So if the organism has to be motile, they will have the flagella. So actively, if the organism has to move, so they rotate the flagella, and through the flagella, are they are going on moving. So till now, what we saw was the flagella for motility, the pili for attachment, and for engineers, particularly I give the example of microbial fuel cell, where they can act as micro wires. Then we came out with the cell wall. Cell wall mainly made up of peptidoglycans, and then the periplasmic space, where one example I gave you is the electron transport occurs and proton force over here, proton gradient will be formed in the periplasmic space. It is technically called as proton motive force that will enable the production of energy inside. And we also saw the cell membrane made up of phospholipids, and the mesosomes, which are invagination of the cell membrane, are the main sites where the electron transport will occur and the proton motive force will be produced. Then now we go to internal things about the cell. Okay, first is they have the cytoplasm. Okay, this yellow color which you can see here is the cytoplasm. Cyto in the cell, the cell is called a cyto, and plasm because it is having the jelly kind of material inside. So this yellow color, whatever you see, is kind of a jelly. Okay, it will be semi-solid structure, and that is the cytoplasm. This is the site at which all the chemical reactions, that is the making up or breaking up, will occur. So the industrial space, if this is an industry by itself, the space in which all the industrial production or whatever is there, it occurs in this space. Okay, cytoplasmic space. And inside this, what all important things you have? One is the we need to have the blueprint. Okay, how the structure of this cell will be formed. The blueprint is something very essential, and the blueprint is by the DNA. So DNA will be present. Mostly it will be present in either of the poles, because the bacteria doesn't have a proper nucleus. It is called as nucleoid. Okay, nucleoid, not a proper nucleus in which it is enclosed, unlike the eukaryotic cells. So the bacteria will be, sorry, the nucleoid will be either in the poles of this. For example, the nucleoid or the DNA material, again, the DNA which is present over here, the genetic material, the DNA, it is again lot of loops and hyperloops will be formed, because this also is very long as compared to the size of bacteria. So even histone-like proteins, some proteins will aid them in formation of loop-like structures, and they will form hyperloops, and inside they will be forming. Okay, so there's also one of the very dramatic, very interesting phenomena, where a very long DNA will be present inside the cell. Okay, so the blueprint essentially is in the form of the nucleoid. Nucleoid, why it is called is, though there is no nuclear envelope for them, it is not enclosed. They will be localized to one particular area, either in the poles of the bacteria. Normally it is seen. Okay, and then they have this black dots which you see is called as the ribosome. Ribosome is the site of protein synthesis. In the later classes, maybe in the module, next module, module 3 or something, we'll be seeing more about what is a ribosome. At the time, we'll discuss more about the ribosome, but here briefly, the generation of protein from DNA to protein generation will be by the ribosome. Okay, a ribosome will help in the production of proteins. So ribosomes will be scattered along the whole cell in the cytoplasm. So there is no proper localization of this. So in the jelly kind of material, it will be scattered along. Then you have food granules also, which will be there inside as a reserve food granules. It will be in some of the bacteria, and essentially you have something more called plasmid. This is also very interesting. This also is made up of the DNA itself. So DNA, here also you may ask why there is here one DNA and here one DNA called plasmid. So the cell, whatever it requires, like all the blueprint, how the cell has to be brought about, how the proteins or other things, polymers have to be manufactured inside, will be stored in the main nucleoid chromosome. Okay, this is the proper generic structure. This is not determining the structure of the cell, whereas this extra chromosomal element, it is called extra plasmid. Just a minute, I have some water. So this plasmid is something important, which is essentially called as extra chromosomal element. Uh, Mostly it is circular in nature, and this plasmid actually you cannot call it a cell. For example, if without a plasmid also it can survive. Plasmid is not a necessary thing for it to survive. So everything mostly occurs, the cell structure and function, everything is coded by the DNA. So you can also possibly tell that the DNA is actually making the cell to work. So similarly over here, autonomously there will be some plasmids, and this plasmid, without them also cell can work, but nevertheless plasmid will be hosted by the cell sometimes. So the plasmids normally exploits, uses the energy which is derived in the cell. So it is like a guest which derives all the nutrients or anything energy from the cell process, and it replicates autonomously. So this can multiply autonomously. So it doesn't require the help of some. It is not determined. For example, if you see this nucleoid structure, everything is determined when a gene fragment of the DNA, a gene which you call, that has to be expressed. But plasmid, it won't determine. It will determine by itself. So replication also is autonomous. Okay, but why the plasmid is taken as a guest by the bacteria is that it may sometimes confer some benefit to it. For example, very nice example is uh, when we all get some bacterial infection. At the time, what we do is we go to a doctor, and doctor prescribes an antibiotic usually when there is a bacterial infection. Okay, and sometimes the antibiotic which is given, the bacteria will be resistant towards that particular antibiotic. And sometimes the most of the times the antibiotic resistance, because if the antibiotic resistance means it will not get killed by the antibiotic. So if it doesn't get killed, so how it resist is, there are different mechanisms for that, and those mechanisms are encoded in the plasmid sometimes. And this plasmid, because of the plasmid, this can survive the antibiotic stress. If there is no plasmid, it may get killed with the antibiotic stress. But nevertheless, it's not always the plasmid, it's also chromosomally encoded also. But we should know that even plasmid, this is the way how plasmid may confer some benefit to the cell. So it will say that you take me inside and keep me as a guest, so I can provide you the antibiotic resistance. Thus, inside the cell, plasmid also will be there inside the cell. Okay, there are this is a kind of mutualistic relationship, or even it is called a symbiotic relationship might be there. Or for example, researchers very interestingly have found that plasmid may also be very selfish, and that may not only it may force the bacteria that you should take me as a guest. If you don't take me as a guest, again you'll be killed. How that occurs is, that is why I'll not go into detailed technical details of that, but it is called toxin antitoxin system. By that system, actually, it will force the bacteria that without, because I'm the one who will produce the antitoxin for to you. So if you take me out and if you don't keep me inside your cell, I will not produce antitoxin, so you'll be killed. So it forces the bacteria that you keep me inside. Okay, so essentially, plasmid, there could be mutual relationship or some other kind of relationship. That is why the bacteria normally keeps the plasmid, because keeping the plasmid is expensive process. It has to give all the energy to plasmid also to perform its function. That is, function is essentially the replication of this. So more and more plasmid which is produced. Okay. So essentially, bacterial cell, when you see, it's having outside, from outside, let's go into inside. One is the flagella, which is very important for motility, for bacteria to move around. Then you have the pili, which will enable the attachment and can also possibly act as a micro wires. And you have the cell wall. Cell wall is made up of peptidoglycans, and you have the periplasmic space in between the cell membrane and the cell wall. And the cell membrane is made up of two layers of phospholipids, and invagination of phospholipid is called as a mesosome. And inside the cell you find the ribosomes, which is important in the protein synthesis, particularly the process of translation, which I'll tell later on in the next module. Then you have the nucleoid, the genetic material will be localized. The cytoplasm will be jelly-like kind of substance inside, and you have the food granules and you have the plasmid. Okay, just the very simplistic thing which will be found inside the bacteria. This you all have seen, for example, uh, the cell will be having this plasma membrane and this phospholipid bimembrane. You have seen, like, even after hitting, it is so hard that it may break, but it will self-assemble into similar kind of structures. Okay, so phosphate heads and lipid tails, hydrophobic and hydrophilic, and in between you also have proteins which will be there, and these are receptors, these are proteins. Okay, so this is the cell membrane, and the cell membrane is also very much used not only for the cell, it's also used for the internal organelles in the higher organism, that is the eukaryotic cell. Now let's go to the structure of the eukaryotic cell. And the eukaryotic cell is a little bit complex structure. Before I go to eukaryotic cells, I'll be happy if any one of you want to ask any question on the prokaryotic cell. Any questions? Anyone? Please do ask any questions if you have. Eukaryotic cell is a little more complex than the prokaryotic cell.
Sir, I have a question in the imagination,
Hmm.
sir.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
please go ahead.
when does exactly imagination occur?
When does it occur is it is not that imaginations occur at a particular time, it will be present always. So because the energy is for the whole process, the energy production for the bacteria cannot be time bound. It's always energy has to be present, currency has to be present. Like for example, you cannot say that uh, now our country requires economy, so we'll build industries. We always just for living we have to have the industry. Similar way, always there will be mesosomes also, which is innately present intrinsically in them. Okay.
Okay, sir. And then flagella is also used to produce electricity.
No, flagella is not always present. Flagella only when they want to move around, they will produce the flagella. Now, say for example, the cell has to decided to stick. Like I gave the example of while uh, they transport themselves into the urethra to the urinary bladder. At that time, they cannot use the flagella. So, for example, if we are swimming in the opposite direction to the flow of the river, we don't swim actually. We catch hold of some rocks. So, similar way, flagella will not be produced whenever, always. Whenever they want, at the time flagella will be produced, and even the pili, they will be produced only when they require. Those are appendages when they require they'll be produced. Now, for example, if they want to stick, they will shed the flagella, and if they want to swim, they will shed the pili and they will secrete the flagella. It is like that. Okay.
Okay, sir. So, is it used in production of electricity?
Yeah, pili is very much used in the production of electricity.
Flagella, sir.
Bacteria is
Flagella is
used.
also used.
Flagella is not reported to be used in the production of electricity because flagella is for movement. But when you produce electricity, it has to stick to the electrodes. If it doesn't stick and it moves away, then electron will not be passed on to the electrodes. So to the electrodes, you need bacteria which can stick. Okay, so they stick with the help of pili.
Okay, sir.
Okay, yeah. Anyone else? Any question? Okay. Okay, so let's go to the next this thing, the eukaryotic cell. So I'll just brief over here and take a little more about the eukaryotic cell in detail in the tomorrow's class. Otherwise, it will be a burden on you information. So it's a brief to tell you the prokaryotic cell is the first one which emerged during the evolution. For example, as I told, uh, bacteria evolved in around 3.5 to 3.7 billion years back. Okay, so they are the first ones to come to Earth. But whereas eukaryotic cell came much later in the during the evolution. uh, because eukaryotic cell has a very much organized kind of thing. In bacteria, if you see, uh, here in the cell we had seen, for example, the ribosomes are very scattered all everywhere they are placed, and the nucleus also, there is no envelope for them, there is no proper organization. For example, it will be like, you can say like, you construct house, but it's only one hall, that's all. In a hall itself you will have somewhere the kitchen in one end or anything where you will be doing, there is no enclosure. But now you see like, our homes, we have bedroom separately, toilet separately, kitchen separately, everything is separate. Okay, so hall separately, veranda, everything will be having, so much more organized are we now. But in the uh, uh, prokaryotic cell, when you want to compare it, just a whole, a single this thing, without any divisions, without any organization. So it's importantly how everything will work is because of the viscosity of the cytoplasm, because they are a jelly kind of thing. So things like translation, transcription, replication, all we see, and even the metabolism, the breaking up or making up of compounds, everything will take place in an orderly way, because it is a very jelly kind of thing or viscous kind of thing. Okay, because high viscosity is there in this. That was the reason. But later, when we go to eukaryotic cell, what you see over there is, it's a much more organized way. Okay, like they have a proper organization where the genetic material should be there, where the transcription, translation has to occur, where the other whatever the industrial scale, whatever reactions are occurring, where exactly they have to occur, and proper organization is there in the eukaryotic cell. So that organization will, let's study in the this thing next class. But what you should know over here is, because the organization is there, for the proper organization, you require a little more energy. So if you construct a house and only one big hall, if you do, you need less money. But if you keep uh, different rooms, kitchen, bathroom, toilet, like this and all differently, you will require more money to make a proper organization. And then you have shelves, cupboards, everything, wardrobes or anything you have properly organized thing, you need more energy. So eukaryotic cell, they require a little more energy, but they are also uh, more organized than the prokaryotic cell. So, because the eukaryotic cell requires more energy, how do they derive more energy? Is that because of the in the atmosphere, when you see during the evolution, presently we have around 20 to 21% of oxygen in the atmosphere. And when you see 3.7 or 3.5 billion years back, when the bacteria evolved, at the time the oxygen was not present so much. Okay, it was more anaerobic kind of life, which was anaerobic kind of atmosphere which was there. And when the increase of oxygen was there, for example, around 10% nearly, when it was there in the earth, at the time eukaryotes evolved. Okay, because they could get more energy. So because there was more energy, and that helped oxygen. So you see, the evolution of oxygen was very important in the atmosphere for the emergence of eukaryotic cell, because they needed more energy intensive process. So in the next class, we'll study more about the eukaryotic cell. Okay, I'll stop here. If any other questions anyone is having, I'll be happy to answer.